Hey guys, I got something a little different today, and then it's not German. This is the Tasca, now Asuka kit, reboxed by Tamiya, of the M4A3E8, also known as the Easy 8. It's been very popularized as it was featured in Fury. So the kit lineage of it is in 2010, Tasca released 35020, which was their original Easy 8. Then in 2011, they had 35024. And then in 2014, they made some deal with Tamiya where this came out, and then they reboxed their own in 2015. So I got into the idea of doing this based on the tracks that I was reviewing for Kaizen, and also a certain friend of mine on YouTube, Shane Smith, went a little Sherman crazy, and it kind of piqued my interest. So I ended up getting the Zaloga book, Armored Thunderbolt, and I'm like slowly having an interest in American armor. I'm trying, and as an American, that's a good thing. So when I got the T84 tracks from Kaizen, I was like, I will track down a Easy 8 to put them on. Nice little excuse there. So, so people had said this was the best one. Now the problem with this Tamiya rebox is it's incredibly expensive now because it's out of production. And at the time I was looking, I couldn't find any of the Asuka or Tasca ones. So I think the going rate for this was over 100. It was like 125 everywhere I looked. I managed to eventually find it for like a reasonable price. I don't remember what it was. Let's look at it. It is, though, difficult to find this boxing, but what's in here will be the same as what the old Tasca boxes I have and the newer Asuka ones have. So if we look in the box, you can already see that there is a ton of plastic in here. It is, for a Tamiya box, it's quite full, mainly because it's not one of their kits. The instructions are the same size and in black and white as always from Tamiya, but these ones are a proper stapled book. So step one is their tracks, which is super different, and this kit, unlike most Tascas, does not have the two U-shaped bands that go together for tracks. It's Indie Link. And I can't tell from reading this if they're workable or not. I'll put together a few, but I'm not planning on using these tracks. I'm planning on using the workables that I got from Kaizen. So, but that's step one. That's very different. Step two is the drive sprocket and the wheels. These are just two halves with a little poly cap in between, and then there's about 4 pieces to the wheels. Then we have the differential cover. We've got this main molded large piece, the two sides, and this bit here. Then underneath we've got quite a few attachment points and the final drives themselves. Then in step 4 we're building the hull tub out of flat plates. That does always make me nervous, but I have heard good things about the engineering of these. So you've got just the two sides like a firewall, that bottom, and this bit here. Then in step 5 we're putting the sponsons on and this rear plate. We're just adding this little thing here. Step 6, these would be the idler arms, and then what looks like a large access hatch. They're pretty simple so far. Step 7, we're assembling the deflector for the exhaust. It's interesting how they made it, so it's in 4 parts this way with these side pieces. Step 8, we're adding the exhaust pipes themselves, some other small bits. They're showing stowed position and deployed position. I think that's for the deflector. Then a bunch of small things like tow hooks and stuff going on the bottom. Then we get to the suspension bogies. So these are famously workable. So 2 little pieces here, like each side of it, then these little bits here. They connected with that, doesn't look too bad. Completing the suspension, we've got the mount itself, and we're attaching the bit we had previously done to that. We're adding the wheels. There's a little bit of ambiguity in here. I've been looking at this a little bit, and I don't quite understand how they're telling me to do that, but I will definitely check references before I build it myself. So attaching the return rollers here looks pretty simple, either 2 halves or a single one, and then I think you add the mounts themselves. So here we're actually attaching all of the bogies and the idler wheels, so that's not too much, and the sprockets themselves. Then the upper hull, putting on things to grab onto, little, just small bits. Looks like the fuel filler cap. Step 14, they're having us do the hatches. Now anywhere you see this little logo, that means we're using photo etch because that's CA. And then we are doing the fenders. Step 15, we're just attaching the upper hull to the lower hull. Seems like a pretty simple step. Step 16 here, we're just building the headlights and horn. Those look like 2 or 3 piece assembly. Shouldn't be anything too complicated. So here though, we're adding the hatches to the hull, the front fenders to the hull, like the gun travel lock, and these light covers, which are PE as well. So hopefully they have something like a jig like Dragon does, otherwise you'll just have to bend them over something round. So the rear hull parts, we got tools going on, the rear tail lights, kind of the main part of the engine deck. Then here, like the intake grill, some little parts that go on top of there, more light guards. Step 19, they're telling us to put the tracks on. I'm not sure that I would do it then because I normally leave them off. So, all right, so we're already up to step 20. Now we're attaching fenders. They look like all plastic, so that looks good. Doesn't look too hard. In 21, just the rear rack. Then this is just attaching the rear rack and any spare tracks we decide to put on. So I'll probably skip these tracks on account of using different type of tracks. So here's something I found was a letdown with all the Sherman Easy 8 kits I tried to hunt down. 2-piece barrel and 2-piece muzzle brake in this case. I believe the new Tamiya one that just came out is a single-piece barrel and a 2-piece muzzle brake, which makes even less sense in my opinion. But this step is mantlet and gun assembly. But this is a major downfall of this kit. So step 24. Major turret assembly. There's quite a lot going on here, and I don't see any breech assembly in this. It's interesting. So putting the cupola on the turret, some little bits like ventilators and the antenna mount, and I believe this is for spent shells, some periscopes going in. But that's a lot of the turret construction in one step. Then attaching the mantlet and the gun to the turret as well as the, we'll call it loader's hatch, but I'm not sure what it is in a Sherman. Then attaching the rear parts to the turret. There's quite a few parts that go on there, and they've got multiple angles, so you've got a 3/4 and a top and a side view. Then the famous Tasca M2. They even sell these separately, so there's quite a few pieces that make up this gun. Looks quite detailed. Then the ammo box and the mount. Attaching the turret to the hull. This would be the last step apart from stowage and stuff that you would do. Doesn't look too hard. And then down here we've got assembly of jerry cans. This page does feature instructions of how to build these figures, but these have been in Tamiya kits since the 80s, so I won't spend much time on them. They are pretty cool though. Marking options are 5th Armored Division, Germany 45, 66th Tank Battalion, 2nd Armored, Belgium 45. So this one's got big old stars, this one has none of those. Then we have 35th Tank Battalion, 4th Armored Division, Bastogne 45, you get a black star on the turret and a white star on the hull. This guy is 8th Armored Division, Germany 45, again 2 giant white stars, and then again 8th Armored Division, 2 white stars. The decals don't have much to look at. White stars, a couple black stars, a star in the circle, and a few numbers. I don't really have any experience with Asuka decals, but I haven't heard anything bad. This is all that's on the photo etch sheet, and it feels awfully thick, actually. There's like no give to it, really. So that could be good, I suppose. Is that it won't break very easily, but it could be rough to bend it, and these do require quite a lot of bending as they need to be round. The tracks come in 6 sprues like this. Each sprue has 28 tracks, so then you have the outside and inside, the inside part having the guide horn. I don't know how they go together, but they do look pretty good for tracks on sprues. Definitely superior in my opinion to their belt tracks that come with their other kits. Here's the track links close up. You've got the outer bit and the inside bit, very crisply molded. They look pretty nice. I'll have to see if they're workable, because it seems like that's the way that they're kind of engineered. So there's lots of sprues to go through. So we'll just start with this one. As was the case with a lot, there's one piece that came off in transit. It seems to be undamaged though. Here we have the mantlet 2-piece barrel, the differential cover and the side pieces of it, and some other small bits. This piece looks really nice. I think the texture is almost a little too soft, but it's there, you can see it. But it's pretty muted, but it could be scale. It's hard for me to tell. I recently found out that Rock Island Arsenal is like 2 hours from my house, and they have an Easy 8 sitting outside, so maybe I'll take a trip down there, look for myself. Seems like a nice piece though. So these are tiny little bits. They seem crisply done. That mantlet looks pretty good. It looks like there might be a teensy bit of flash on the outside of it though. You see right there? That little rim around there. Nothing too difficult to get rid of though. All these straight lines seem to be pretty crisp. There's your barrels. You know, I'm not going to use them. I mean, I guess they look alright for 2-sided barrels. That's nice. That's very nice right there. This stuff pops up nice. Really crisply done. Yeah, pretty thin plastic too. A little more Tamiya-like than Dragon, but all of the parts seem pretty good. Then there's two of this sprue. I'm not as familiar with Sherman's as Tiger's, obviously, but so I'll call out what I can see, as I always do. So these are like the grab things for the front of the tank. The plastic version of the light guards. Looks like probably pieces for the lights. I believe that's the up-armored plate that they put on the sides of Sherman's. And a couple other small bits. That's a very well done piece, whatever it is. That's that piece I'm talking about. That's some really fine molding right there. It looks good. This is that piece, and it looks like the only thing that could really be is just an armor plate. So this looks like a seat. A nice little leather texture on it. These are spare tracks. They look more similar to like T-54s. And then there's your plastic version of those guards. That's really nicely done. Pretty thin, probably not scale thickness, but nice. There's your lights. Those look pretty good too. Then we have two of this sprue, which contains the drive sprocket, the idlers, and some of the return rollers. You can see I have removed one of the sprockets. That's for test fitting the Kaizen tracks, so I actually have the two pieces right here. So I know a particular complaint that I already have from trying to build or cut out just this piece, which is the attachment points on these sprockets is very bad. So if you look right here, you can see that the sprue gate is in between the teeth of the sprocket, and these are really difficult to clean up. And I accidentally removed one of the rivets on one of the pieces I was doing. It's not terribly noticeable, but it really kind of took the wind out of my sails. It was the first piece I'd ever cut off, and I was like, what is with these sprue gates? So I think the way Dragon does it, attaching them to the outer part, is much easier to clean up. This is a little silly. The parts themselves, though, as you can see, are pretty nicely done. There's two options for the sprocket. I know Dragon does like a different way of doing this, where this is like a separate piece and it goes on, but these wheels look really nice too. There's your final drives. That's nice. Got a little cast texture on it. Those are the mounts for the return rollers. This is it. Cut off the sprue. I just have it again for test fitting to my tracks. So like you can even see I haven't finished cleaning it up yet. I kind of just tested to make sure the tracks fit it, but like right there, that's going to be a pain to get perfect. The sprue gates are just weird, and then trying to get my knife in and out of here, it's just nerve-wracking. Then we have this little sprue. This has clearly our loader's hatch, our front fenders, and some other small parts. These might be side fenders here. These parts seem okay. A lot of sprue gates. Even this guy's a little bent. If anyone knows why on earth that looks like that, I would love to know. I assume this is the hatch we use, but if this is part of a weird Sherman turret, I am not aware of it. Some real small grab handles there too. There's their fenders. They look nice. Really smooth, but they're supposed to be. These look like idler mounts. So this is a sprue for the M2. It's all basically just parts for the M2, different barrels by the look of it. And the ammo box. There's that piece. Looks very nice. These holes in the jacket look pretty good. It's an ammo belt. It looks alright. The barrels are hollowed out. Very cool. We also have this sprue, which looks to be some more ammo boxes and some smaller parts I can't quite identify. Nicely molded parts regardless. That kind of looks like another gun mount. But these here look like ammo boxes. A little flash there. Yeah, this was in the same bag with the gun, so I assume this could be more parts for that. Then this little sprue, which is just single piece bottom of jerry cans. These look very nicely done. The attachment points I don't like when they overlap a little bit, because it could cause some really difficult cleanup if they bubble past that seam. But this is very cool. I like the way that's done. Then this little sprue that goes with it is the handles, the like spout, and the top of the jerry can. parts on here look nice as well. It's definitely a different way of doing jerry cans. So if I bring this over in here, you'll just put these on like that, and then add these two things. Then this sprue, which is basically just our hull tub, rear plate, and firewall. It's an interesting critique here, but it's awfully smooth. I know that these were welded plates at this stage, and I think the bottom of a Sherman always was, but this is like ridiculously smooth. Near the half of a muzzle brake. So that would be the inner parts, and then that's actually the exterior of your rear plate. Now I'd normally see a little more surface texture. Got a little flash there too, or burring, I'm not sure what you'd call that. There's the bottom. Got some nice riveted bits. Some small guys there. But overall, seems cleanly molded, but lacking in much to look at. Next we have 3 of this sprue, which appears to be mostly suspension components. On it we can see road wheels, the mounting points for the bogies themselves, parts for the bogies, basically that's it. It's just like a bogie and wheel sprue, and I know they do sell these separately as well. Detail on the wheels seems pretty good. All these parts seem pretty cleanly molded. It pops out nice. The rivets pop out nicely as well. I mean, it seems pretty good. Again though, little Tamiya-like, which can be a little bit softer than I like. Next we have this sprue, which has parts for the engine deck, like the intake itself, and the exhaust deflector and exhaust pipes themselves. Seems really crisply done. Very sharp. It's not bad. And that seems nice too. Grab handles look about average. There's 2 different intakes. The exhaust pipes look pretty nice. They will definitely require some mist resurfacer to texture them up though. Here we have a rather large sprue. So we've got the driver and co-driver, I think it was in a Sherman, hatches, the commander's hatch, some more fenders. For the front, the gun travel lock, the tools themselves, lots of little things. It looks like 30 cal machine guns. Lots of little bits going on here. That looks nice. It seems okay. I don't know if what I'm seeing through there is intentional or not. If that's just flash, it's awfully even. That's strange. Lock looks good. Some more old, smaller chevron tracks. So I'm sure this is like a generic Sherman sprue. So these fenders might match a different model. There's your gun. That looks pretty cool. So that could be the bow gun, I'm guessing? Like the bow MG. Tools do not have molded on clasps, but I don't know a whole lot about American OVM mounting, so I'm not even sure what they're supposed to look like. This looks pretty nice. That's the mount for the MG. There's your 2 main hatches for the hull. Some of this stuff looks a little flat. I think it's just like that side of this looks a little bit flat. Here, just a small clear part sprue, like a couple periscopes and lights. It seems a little bit foggier than I'm used to. They seem okay though. Crisp enough. Then this sprue done in clear and green plastic. This way you can mask and paint around these vision ports right here. We will look at both of them a little more closely, but it's basically just the cupola and some periscopes. So the detail on the clear part does look good. Then in green, I can't see why you would ever use this because unless you cut these out and then like put something in there. Or painted them like they were windows, I don't know. Then we have the main part of the hull and sponsons. Again, the surface itself seems smooth. It's not as smooth here. We've got a little bit of roughness here. You definitely got some burring right there, if you see that. Very sharply molded. And again, there's a little bit of surface there, but it's uneven. See how it's different here than there? But all these details are molded rather well. The sponsons, there's really not much to see other than where they mount into other pieces. You've got this little bit here. Pretty smooth though. So the last bit of the Tasca plastic that we have is the turret. Anything after that is just the Tamiya figures and gear. So the turret looks good. We've just got an upper and a bottom half and then a few other smaller parts. The texture on the turret does look good. Might not be to scale, I'm not sure. It does seem kind of like that differential cover, a little bit soft. Here you've got like some foundry markings right there. Overall, it seems like a pretty solid base for the turret. The bottom, similar texture here. Not much to see really, but it seems alright. So also in this box are these figures from Tamiya. They've been out for a long time. They are 4 guys kind of in a Battle of the Bulge gear, winter American gear. GIs, not paratroopers. But they are pretty nice, so I'll give you a look at them. You can get them in a lot of kits actually. A lot of Tamiya's Sherman kits come with these figures. So here's one of the torsos. You can see some pretty good detail on there for Tamiya. On the heads. Another guy. You got some mold seams, of course. They come with these little bases, but the detail seems alright. I definitely think good figure people could make a good result from them. There's your hands. They look a little bit muddy. Since I'd had these figures before in the old 80s Sherman that I did, I actually have them built up and unpainted because I was just toying around with the idea of wanting to deal with figures. It's actually a pretty cool pose. Detail seems pretty good. The way the coat fits is alright. I think most people are probably familiar with these though. And this guy as well, who should obviously be carrying a gun, but did a pretty bad job on that seam right there. But these are probably the first figures I ever built. I just never painted them, so. Then the last thing included in here is Tamiya's Allied or American equipment sprue. So you've got a Thompson and helmets and pistols and bayonets and a carbine and some M1s and a BAR, trenching tools, all kinds of good stuff. There's your Thompson. There's some shovels that look like they have covers on them. There's some packs here. Canteens by the look of it. There's your M1 with a rifle grenade. Some standard grenades. There's your BAR. That's a regular M1. And then the carbine. Bipod, bayonet. There's your helmets. So all this was done, remember, to test these, which are the Kaizen T84s. So I just thought I'd show how they fit on the Sprocket. And that's basically all I've done in the sort of build itself so far, but I thought the tracks were cool enough to basically justify buying this kit. And they do look really, really sweet. So that's Tasca's Easy 8, or Asuka, whatever. This is a Tamiya rebox, so you've got the figures and the ammo and gear and stuff, but essentially any kit you get of the old Tasca Sherman or the newer Rebox Asuka one, you got 2010, 11, and last year, it would all be pretty much the same thing. And it is, in my opinion, miles above that Tamiya re-release. Now, that being said though, neither will get away without having some upgrades made to it because the 2-piece barrel in this is just not going to fly. So I got this, so I have an RB metal barrel to replace it because I don't want to deal with that. So that was the main thing that I got to supplement it, but I would have done that with the Tamiya one anyway. The tracks that I got, obviously, as I've said, I got first, and what caused me to buy the kit in the first place. But when comparing the two, I think that this kit, or any of the Asuka ones, are much, much better than the Tamiya one. Problem is it was out of production for a while, but now that they've re-released it in 2015, that would always be my recommendation, would be this one, or a different boxing of this one.